Welcome back to another Ozzstar's Today's Fun Project. Today we've got this beautiful '06 Jeep Wrangler right here. It's got the 4-liter, and the problem it's having is the owner tells me the air conditioning is working on and off sorta. So let me explain. So you go down the road, the air conditioning's, it's working fine, cold air is coming out of the vents, and then after about 10-15 minutes, nothing. It's just basically no air hardly coming out of the vents at all, if anything. And then later on, it comes back, it's cold again. So what I believe is happening here is the evaporator is freezing up. That's inside the car, in the cabin, up under the dashboard there by the glove box. And when that freezes, that will prevent the airflow from coming through, so you're not getting any of that cold air blowing in. So what could cause that? The drain for that could be clogged. There's a drain there. If moisture builds up, the water builds up, doesn't have anywhere to go out, then it can freeze solid. You can't get any air through there. Could be low on freon, could be a bad sensor. So what we're gonna do in this video is diagnose the issue, see what's going on. I'll hook up some gauges, I'll show you all that. I'll show you where the sensors are. I probably won't be able to get a shot of the compressor itself because it's down really low, but it has a clutch there. The clutch could, that could be stuck on. So we're going to test that. We'll make sure that the clutch is, on and off, and we have control of that. Now the easiest way to do that is just turn the, if you have cold air at some point, that means there is freon. Now if there's not enough freon in the system, the AC compressor will not kick on. So you can turn on the switch on and off, and physically you can hear the clicking of the clutch on and off. There's also another way to disconnect the switches there, the low and high pressure switches. I'll show you that trick. If you don't have a helper, you can do that yourself if there is freon in the system. So let's hook up some gauges. Let's take a look. Let's diagnose the issue and see if we can get this baby fixed. So let's take a look at where some of the components are. So here's our AC refrigerant lines right here. We got the low and the high. And if you follow them down, the compressor is sitting down there. Here's the high side sensor right here, high pressure. So this particular model is a 2-pin. So if you want to disconnect the connector for whatever reason, these just thread in. You can just push down on this clip here and they slide right off. So when the engine's running, I'm going to tell you now because it's hard to hear when it's running, but if that compressor just keeps running and you want to see if it, if it's a stuck clutch, then what you just need to do is unplug either the high pressure side sensor or you can unplug the low pressure. Now on some of them, the sensors are back here, but this one happens to be up here. This one has a green connector, as you can see, and this one now, I think this one's been replaced because it says China in here, so I'm already suspect of this sensor. But this is the low pressure, this part is gray, and on the high pressure, this one's black. This side's black. Now this is aftermarket, but I think the OEM is the same setup. So we've got that. Those lines run over here. Let's see where the ports are. So here's your port for the high side. Just unscrew these caps here. You have little caps. There's a Schrader valve in there. We'll hook up to that. And then over here, we're on the passenger side now. Here's the evaporator back through there where the lines are going in to the receiver, dryer, all that stuff, and it feeds right in. Here's the low side. So we'll take that cap off. We'll hook up here, there. Maybe I'll bring the hood back down so I have something to hang the gauges on. That would be helpful. And we'll take it from there. So let me fire it up. Let me see if I can get a good shot of all the icing that's developing on the pipes, especially back here and up here. Hopefully you can see the ice forming on the low side here. There's the high side. This pipe actually feels warm coming up from the compressor. It's almost hot. It is hot. This is ice cold, and there's ice, I don't know if you can see it, developing here. I'll zoom in. You can compare it. So this is what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like now. It's just turned white. So let's hook up the gauges. I just shut the car off, and it's only been a matter of maybe 1 to 2 minutes and it's already melted. I've got the gauges hooked up, you know, blue goes to low, red to hot, or red to hot, red to high. This is the static pressure right now. So it looks like we're reading about 44 pounds PSI on the low, and what are we, about 49 on the high. So let me start the Jeep up and let's see what we got. All right, so engine's running, obviously you can hear it, compressor's on. Let's see, so on the high side we're about 100, what are we there, about 100 and, is that 80, yeah, about 183. And on the low, we're looking about 20, what is that, about 22, 23 pounds. Let's look at the chart here. We're at 67 degrees right now. So that's important to know your ambient temperature, because that'll affect the pressures. So let's go to our chart. This is from the Chrysler manual here, Mopar. I'm gonna put this down here. So at 70 degrees, the low side should be 26 to 35 PSI is what we're looking at. So we'd be down towards the lower end. And the high side, 180 to 240. So, all right, I wanted to show you the trick. If you want to test your clutch, see if it's stuck or not coming on. Well, obviously it wouldn't be cold. If you're doing this and you don't have any cold air inside the cabin, you know you've already got other issues. But here we go. I'll pull this connector off the low side sensor and you'll hear it shut off. I'll put it back on. I'll do it a couple times. On, off. Now I want to check the inside cabin temperature. I can feel it's cold, but let's see what it's doing here. So it's about 35 degrees, which is good. So the best way is get one of those meat type of thermometers and stick it in there. Mine broke. So, but it's okay. That's good. We're at speed 3 right now. AC's on. The other thing that can happen is the evaporator drain can get plugged up. So one of the things I did check was I pulled that little rubber nipple that comes out into the firewall. You know, you can always see that condensation dripping. There was some dripping. I shoved a like a wire hanger in there just to make sure it was clear. It wasn't blocked. So if that is blocked, the water can build up in there and freeze. So that could be another symptom of, you know, causing this, but that's not the case here. All right, something weird's going on. Let's see, my pressures are still good. Oh, the pressure jumped up. Look, the low side now is at, what is that, 34, 35 pounds. The high jumped up to about 240. And I don't have any frost on the line. So this is wet and cold, but it's not frosted. Interesting. All right, it's never easy. So we got up to, what, on the low side, 30, 35 pounds, and it was fine. I wasn't getting any icing anymore. I showed you that. So we've got to kind of figure this thing out. I'm starting to lean towards a bad sensor there on that low side. But anyway, let's look at the gauges now that the engine's off for a couple of minutes. What you want to see is equalizing. So they should be, low and high should equalize pretty close. So this one's about 53 and 50, yeah, is that 53, 55, and this one's about 56. So they're pretty close, so that's good. You do want to see that. We don't have any blockage there. I'm going to diagnose the pressure sensor now. So on the low side is what I want to look at. I'm going to the low side. The high side, you saw in those statistics or specs here that it's got to be, or maybe I didn't show that. Hold on a second. Let me get you the specs for when the sensor should kick on or actually open. Right now they're closed. So by doing a continuity test, this is a 2-pin. It's a 2-pin sensor. Some have 3. So then you have a 5-volt reference to signal the ground. You know the deal. If you don't, you can always look it up. There's a lot of good information on there. All my favorite YouTubers talk about it. So anyhow, this is a 2-pin sensor. This should be actually making full contact right now. So in other words, it contacts like that. You know, it's completing the circuit. Now, when it reaches that minimum pressure, it should open, which cuts the 12 volts to the compressor. Okay, so, well, that's power steering, you know, down there. So anyhow, let me ohm test these now. I'm going to do the low side and the high side. And let's see what that says. All right, so I'm going to reach in and touch these contacts. And we do want to see, let's first check for continuity here. Okay, so this, I'm touching these together. Everything works good. Test that first. All right, so let me reach in and touch these 2 pins. And as you can see, very little resistance there. Okay. Oops. There. Let me get back on the pins. So very little resistance. Those contacts are closed. And let me go to the, you won't be able to see it probably, it's right here. Let me see, I'm going to do the same test. Let me turn this a little bit, I think we can get it in a shot. Right here. So let me get my arm in your way. And let's see what the, oh, now I just knocked that over. The life and times of filming YouTube repair videos right here. As Eric O says, this is real life here. Where the hell can I put this? Shit. Okay, let me reach down now and check this high side here for resistance. I'm on the pins, I can feel it. What do we got? Very little. Okay, so same deal. So that means that they're definitely staying closed. The contacts are closed. Now whether or not they're opening, that's a different story. So what I think I can do with the low pressure here, since I'm suspecting this one because it says made in China, you can unscrew these without releasing any freon. Should be a Schrader valve type deal in there. So I'm going to unscrew this and put air pressure to it while we check the resistance. Let's do that next. I got a 17mm wrench here. Let's unscrew this. Like I said, I do have safety glasses on because you never know. Oop, you hear that little pop? Okay. So there's the O-ring. There's an O-ring on there to seal it. There's your Schrader. Can you see that? Yeah, you guys can see it. So here's that 2-pin. And what we can do is, I'm going to, there's something rattling in there. I'm going to put air pressure here and check the ohms on that. So let's get that set up. Got my air compressor here, air hose. I've got the this voltmeter here set up, ohm meter, and I'm hooked with this. Has the alligator clips. I'm hooked on there, as you can see. We're at 0, so we're making full contact right now. So power would be flowing even though we'd have 0 pressure basically here, whatever the pressure is in the air. So what's that, like 14 pounds per square inch? So there's no pressure here, no static pressure. It should be like this. Here, I'll disconnect one end. See, it should go open. I mean, it's closed, I should say. It's staying closed. I'm shaking it, and maybe you can hear that rattle. It sounds like a PCV valve a little bit. Something in there is moving, but I'm not getting any change here. So let's put some air to it and see if anything happens. Now remember, this is supposed to open at 20.5 psi. So we're way below 20.5 psi, but we'll try it. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I just right to the bottom. I can actually feel that little diaphragm or whatever it is in here bouncing, moving up and down. I can feel the vibration. But as you see on our ohm meter here, nothing's happening. Yeah, we're not getting anything. Let me tap this. Let's see. Well, when I tapped it, we got a little bit of something. There, hopefully that's not blocking your view. Got a little bit. Yeah, we got a little bit of resistance there. Just by tapping it. So I've seen this stuff before, and this is usually, you know, dead here. So let me go get another one. Just for reference, this sensor here, this aftermarket sensor, says R134A, and it had part number 20923 on it, made in China. So it'll probably, you know, most likely be getting another Chinese sensor, but hopefully this will be the cause of all evil. I got the new sensor in, and it's been running for a few minutes here. Pressure is good. It's about 35 on the low and about 240 on the high. So that's what our specs call for. It's about 69 degrees outside right now, so we're pretty close to those numbers there. What's strange is when I put the new sensor in, well, let me shut off the car and I'll tell you. So I got the new contact switch. It was from Advanced by factory error. It was 20922. The one I took out was 23. Evidently that one's discontinued. So what I did was, before I put the new switch in, I did an ohm test on it. And what the ohm test showed, it was actually open. So at atmospheric pressure here of 14.7 pounds or whatever it is, it was open. Where this one we saw earlier, the contacts were closed. So I tried to put the air compressor, the air hose, up to it to simulate pressure to see if it would close the contacts. It was a no-go. It didn't work for me. So I decided to try it anyhow because it's pretty easy to put in and out. I threaded the thing in down on the little stud there, and what I noticed was it was hissing. It was leaking freon a little bit, even though there's an O-ring there. So I backed it off a little bit and it stopped. So that's something to keep in mind. It's not an OEM part. But anyhow, hooked everything up, turned on the air conditioning, and sure enough, as it was firing up, the compressor was kicking on and off. I was watching the pressure gauge and doing its thing. So when the pressure dropped down or came to a certain point, it would shut off, kick back on. And then after about 5-10 minutes, it leveled out. I think I showed that earlier. It was about 35 pounds PSI on the low and about 240 on the high. So that's good for this temperature that we're at, this ambient temperature, which is 69 degrees today. So anyway, it seems to be working well. There was no ice on the lines there, no frost. So I'm going to run it some more. I'm going to try to let it cool down and do a kind of a cold start thing and see if I can get the gauges, show you, or let you hear the compressors kicking on and off like it should be. Okay, now it's on. There you go, just shut off. working properly. This sensor here is working. It's got control. It's not staying on constantly. So now it's not just running, which evidently this was doing. This one was rattling. Maybe you could hear that. The other one was not. The new one, the replacement, wasn't. I think the part was about 19 bucks, something like that, 18, 20 bucks. So anyhow, that should fix our problem. The pressures seem good. I don't think it's overcharged. It was one of my concerns at first. You know, the owner told me that somebody had worked on this air conditioning system previously. I think it was as soon as last year. I'm not sure. But anyway, it should stay nice and cool now. The cabin stays cool. I appreciate you guys watching. Well, that about wraps it up for this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out some of my other automotive repair videos. I appreciate it. Thumbs up's always good. Leave me a comment down below if you have a question about your system. There's a lot of different variables to air conditioning systems, refrigerant pressures, temperature, ambient temperature. Of course, you have the electronic side of it with the sensors, the compressor itself. There's a lot of different variables. So I hope this helped you out if you're having this issue. This would apply to other types of vehicles too. It's not necessarily just a Jeep. So basically, they all work the same way. So anyhow, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. One more quick thing. I want to thank Monster Sasquatch for sending me one of his stickers. I appreciate it. Hope you got mine by now. And I want to give a shout out to Stuzman on YouTube here, S-T-U-Z-M-A-N. I'm going to leave a link to both those channels in the description down below. Check out Stuzman's channel. Terry is a professional. I mean, he knows what he's doing and he does the job right. And he's got a great sense of humor. He even sent me, well, let's go get Chaos. Yeah, this little bastard here, Chaos, if you haven't watched my channel or don't know who this guy is, he can cause a lot of trouble. He was down at Terry's house when he was doing his brake repair work on that Ford Escape of his. So, hey Terry, Chaos is back with me now. So, anyway, check out Stuzman's channel, and I appreciate you guys watching. Take it easy.